Welcome to Utah, guys, the land of strange rock formations, huge deserts, deep canyons, and mountain vistas. This is outlaw cattle country, the heart of the American West. If you think this could be a backdrop to a John Wayne movie, you'd be absolutely correct. Come take a journey with me to one of Utah's most spectacular places, Bryce Canyon National Park. Buckle up, guys. What's up, guys? Western Nomad here, driving out in southern Utah. Had to pull over and just take the view in behind me. I really don't know where I am in southern Utah, but I think Highway 72. So for me, the story of Bryce Canyon starts well before I even reach the park itself. And it just starts with me driving through Utah and taking in all my surroundings. And if you've never driven out west and, really taken a road trip and driven through multiple states, you have no idea how huge this country is. And it's hard to really appreciate how open and how much land is owned by the federal government and by ranchers until you go out west. It blows my mind every time I come out here. But this is I-70 and just going through some really cool rock formations. Driving out here is like driving, on a roller coaster. There's really sharp turns. Changes in elevation are pretty drastic, so you get somewhat nauseous. But yeah, it's Utah, so it's actually funny. Utah is often compared to Mars, and they actually train NASA astronauts out here for what it's like to walk and live in Mars, because it's like the closest landscape on Earth that mimics something in outer space. So if you've driven through Utah, hiked out here, you know what I'm talking about. So here, this is like 10 minutes outside of Bryce Canyon City, and I was driving through here and I was like, there's no way there's anything of any significance out here. And you'll hear me say that throughout the video. I'm just amazed by how rural these parks are and how unassuming the landscape is, and you would have no idea that there's something that attracts people from all around the world just looking at the drive-in. But this is the town itself of Bryce Canyon City. We're looking at a gas station, a hotel, a convenience store, maybe 2 or 3 places to grab food. That's it. This town was created solely because of the park, and it just comes out in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, what? It makes no sense because it's surrounded by just ranchers in the middle of nowhere. This is Bryce Point. This is the place you want to be in the park when the sun's setting. Just the way the sun hits the rock, and those pointy rocks are called spires. And in a minute I'll tell you how they formed and the history of this park. But this is the place you want to be when the sun is setting. Bryce Point. You can plug it into your Google Maps. It'll take you right to the parking lot. You won't be disappointed. This is me hiking the Navajo Loop and Queen's Garden Trail. If you can only do one hike while you're here at Bryce, this is the one you want. It just takes you through an amazing loop around the canyon, and trail conditions were very muddy when I went here, and this is mid-March 2025. Now this particular trail wasn't horrible, but the descent down, people were sliding all over the place, so I do recommend you bring your yak tracks or spikes. It definitely helped me out further along the trail. But again, if you're here for one day and you want to see all that Bryce has to offer, do the Navajo and Queen's Garden Loop. This is roughly 3 miles with 652 feet elevation gain. Yeah, this is the one to do, guys. Whenever I come to big attractions out west, national parks, whatever catches my eye, I'm always wondering who was the first person to stumble upon a place like this. I know that Native Americans were the first people to live here, and that's the story of basically every attraction in the American West, but who was the first white man to stumble upon this type of landscape? Because if you're not actively trying to find a place this remote, I really struggle if you're a white person in the 1800s, how you would ever find something like this. So I'm going to attempt to explain the story of Bryce. You're probably wondering what these big rock spires are, and they're called hoodoos, and they're basically formed by thousands of years of erosion. Towering spires of red rock, sculpted by time, rising from the Utah desert. This is Bryce Canyon National Park, one of nature's most breathtaking masterpieces. A place of wonder, mystery, and history, Bryce Canyon tells a story that stretches back thousands of years. But who were the first people to call this land home? Who were the first outsiders to lay eyes upon its beauty? And how did this otherworldly landscape become the national park we know today? Join us as we uncover the rich history of Bryce Canyon. Long before tourists marveled at its hoodoos, Bryce Canyon was home to indigenous peoples. Archaeological evidence suggests the ancestral Puebloans, also known as Anasazi, were among the first to live in this region over 1,000 years ago. Later, the Paiute people established a presence here, calling this landscape home for centuries. They refer to the towering rock formations as legend people, believing the spires were once ancient beings turned to stone as punishment by the trickster god Coyote. It wasn't until the late 18th century that European explorers first arrived in the region. In 1776, a Spanish expedition led by Friars Dominguez and Escalante passed near the area while searching for a route from Santa Fe to California. However, the rugged terrain and harsh climate kept settlers away for many decades. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that white settlers began to take an interest in the region. Mormon pioneers seeking new lands to cultivate arrived in the 1850s. Among them was Ebenezer Bryce, a Scottish immigrant and homesteader who settled in the area in the 1870s. He built roads and irrigation systems, helping make the land more hospitable. Locals started calling the remarkable amphitheater Bryce Canyon, and the name stuck. Despite its beauty, Bryce Canyon remained relatively unknown to the outside world until the early 20th century, as the U.S. government began recognizing the importance of preserving unique landscapes. Bryce Canyon caught the attention of conservationists. In 1923, President Warren G. Harding designated it as a national monument, and just over 1 year later, in 1924, Congress upgraded it to a national park. Since then, Bryce Canyon National Park has been a cherished destination for millions of visitors. So what makes Bryce Canyon so special? The park is famous for its stunning hoodoos, tall, thin rock spires formed by millions of years of erosion. The vibrant red, orange, and white colors of these formations create a breathtaking contrast against the clear blue skies. Hikers, photographers, and nature lovers flock here to explore its winding trails such as the Navajo Loop and Queen's Garden, offering some of the most spectacular views in the American Southwest. And let's not forget the night skies. Bryce Canyon is one of the best places in the country for stargazing, with little light pollution and a vast clear sky. From the ancient legends of the Paiute people to the pioneering spirit of early settlers, and from the stunning geological formations to its status as a national treasure, Bryce Canyon National Park is a place of wonder and history. Whether you come to hike among the hoodoos, gaze at the stars, or simply stand in awe of nature's artistry, Bryce Canyon has something magical to offer. So the next time you find yourself in Utah, make sure you experience this incredible place for yourself. So this is me hiking the horse trail and just having a good time climbing up on all the rocks and stuff. Now this trail was very muddy and yeah, I don't think I've ever been covered in this much mud before. So it was just real interesting conditions because it was kind of warm, you know, I would say mid 50s, sometimes reaching 60 in exposed areas. So I was constantly going back and forth of being exposed to sunlight and then not being exposed to sunlight. And you know, it was still raining and snowing at this park, you know, days before I came. So kind of the muddy clay atmosphere of the ground created some really slick conditions. So I was glad I brought my spikes for this one, and not many people here were hiking the trail, and I'm trying to explain in this shot that I maybe saw one other person on this trail, and I'm going to attribute that to the muddy conditions. So if you come out to Bryce in the spring months, be prepared to get dirty.
If you use your imagination, you can probably imagine outlaws and people running away from the law hanging out here in these hills. I find it ironic because the whole Bryce City, it's like this outlaw cowboy theme, and this is in the middle of nowhere in southwest Utah, so this is pretty much cattle country. Driving in here, I was like, there's no way there's anything of any significance out here. But there is. The national parks are in super remote locations in the United States, and I drove 8.5 hours from Denver to hike this. I think it was worth it. So please hit that subscribe button. Weather's slowly getting warmer, and the Rocky Mountains change is slowly already here, melting a little bit of the ice. It's still raining and snowing. That's not going to stop until like late June, but we're getting there. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate all the support.
So this is me kind of finishing up my last day here at Bryce on the horse trail, which actually was a pretty cool trail. Not very long. I don't even think it was 2 miles, but I know there's a good amount of elevation gain, or it felt that way. So I do recommend the horse trail as well. And this is me wrapping up the day with this nice sunset overlook over Bryce Point. This is where I came basically every night after, you know, a long day of hiking to just take everything in and process where I was. So when you're down there hiking in the hoodoos, you can lose perspective, and you really need to get to a high vantage point to see the real beauty of Bryce and how big it is. And you know, it feels like there's really no starting point or end point to this canyon. Now, for a national park, it's a relatively small national park, but make no mistake about it, Bryce Canyon is huge, and this is just one section of the canyon that you can look at. So I was pleasantly surprised by Bryce. I kind of thought maybe it was like a mini Grand Canyon, yet I have not been to the Grand Canyon, so I can't compare the two. But I did hear people talking on this viewpoint that this was higher up and slightly cooler than the Grand Canyon. So I guess that's going to be a matter of preference and bias, but I was really impressed by Bryce, and I would definitely come back here.
Well, that concludes my trip here at Bryce Canyon. I am the Western Nomad. I go to all these cool places out west. This place pleasantly surprised me. There's a bunch of mud on the trails, so that sucks. I don't think I've ever been covered in this much mud before. But look at that view. If you want to see more stuff like this, hit that subscribe button. I have well over 3,000 subscribers, getting close to the monetization goal, so things are coming along. I appreciate your support. What can you say? That's Utah right there. An amazing place. I recommend Bryce.